Good evening. The regular meeting of the South San Antonio Independent School District Board of Trustees will come to order. Today is December 19th, 2018, and the time is 6 p.m. At this time, could we please have a roll call?
Mrs. Mandy Martinez.
Present.
Mr. Luis Ibarra Jr. Mr. Homer Flores.
Present.
Ms. Shirley Ibarra Peña. Present. Mrs. Connie Prado.
Present.
Mr. Gilbert Rodriguez.
Present.
Mrs. Elda Flores.
Present.
Thank you. At this time, could we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
Please bow your heads for prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we seek the
guidance of your Holy Spirit and the wisdom that is before us. In planning for the future, give us vision. In matters of finance, give us responsibility. In dealing with people, give us love. Help us in all things to honor your name and to carry out your will. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Now we can have a call to action.
All students enjoy successful education experiences, empowering them to make decisions while enriching their lives in the future they create.
Thank you. Please be seated. Our first item on the agenda is a recognition. Dr. Flores?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Castro?
Yes, sir. I'd like to ask Adriana Farias, our bilingual facilitator, to the podium. She will announce the district winners of the Dia de los Muertos art contest and our district Spanish B spelling bee winners. And I'd like to invite Dr. Flores to come down. Yes, please. And Estrada.
Yes.
I think all the board is going to come down, so we can congratulate. Board members, if you'll come down, please.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, and Dr. Flores. The Bilingual ESL and Migrant Department is happy to recognize some very talented bilingual and ESL students. In November, the Bilingual and ESL Department held a Dia de los Muertos art contest for all bilingual and ESL students. Students from pre-K to 8th grade participated, and the grade level winners will receive an art kit. Please join me in recognizing the following winners. In pre-K, from Benavides, Andrea Ruiz.
Here, shake everybody's hand and then I'll give this to you. I think you can carry all of it.
In kindergarten from 5 Palms, Leslie Salazar Padilla. We'll make sure to get the prize to her. In first grade, also from 5 Palms, Stephanie Saldaña Piedra. From Hutchins, Grisel Marquez. From 3rd grade, also from Hutchins, Kathy Chica de la O. In 4th grade from Hutchins, Diana Moreno. Gift as well. In 5th grade from Price, Corinne Perez Pineda. from Dwight Middle School, Juan Robles de la Torre. In 7th grade from Zamora Middle School, Ailey Gam. In 8th grade from Zamora, Lisette Martinez.
Diana Moreno.
Diana Moreno is
Fourth grade.
a 4th grader from Hutchins. Congratulations. Felicidades. In addition to the art contest, the Bilingual and ESL department hosted its annual Spanish Spelling Bee Wednesday, November 14th. Each campus sent 2 of their top winners at each grade level to compete here at the district level. And the winners will represent South San at the 5th annual Regional Spanish Spelling Bee at Region 20 on Saturday, February 2nd. And the competition is on because last year our elementary winner was the state winner. So we need to keep studying, okay? Congratulations and good luck to the district winners. So let's meet our district champions. In the elementary school division, we have 4th grader Frida Ramirez from Price Elementary. In the middle school division, Juan Aguilera Sanchez, a 7th grader from Hawaii Middle School, is our winner. His teacher, Miss Adriana Montalvo. And in high school, we have Maribel Parga, a 9th grade student at South End High School, was our first place winner.
Great job.
That concludes our recognition for the evening. Before we go into closed session, if there anyone that is here that has not signed up for sessions that you heard, please do so now. Because when we go into closed session, I will be taking up the list. So if you haven't had an opportunity, please go ahead and sign up if you'd like to. With that said, we will now go into closed session. Pursuant to the Texas Government Act, Texas Government Code 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, 551.076, 551.082, and 551.0821. Number one will be discussion concerning personnel matters pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074. And the time right now is 6:11 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's right there next to the computer, to the right.
The Board of Trustees will reconvene into open session, and the time is 6:50 p.m. The next item on the agenda is superintendent's remarks. Dr. Flores.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. So first and foremost, I'd like to wish everybody happy holidays as we come up. We're coming up on our winter break. I know that our staff has been working tirelessly. I see that look in their eyes. Everybody's antsy for Friday. They can't wait for Friday to come fast enough. And the only thing I tell them is make sure that you go make a mess in somebody else's house and not your own. That would be the best thing to do. But we definitely want everybody to have a safe and happy winter break, spend time in the company of friends and loved ones, and then come back rested and rejuvenated, ready to take on the challenge of educating our kids in this great district. So that's the first thing that I do want to touch on. The other thing that I do have is I do want to recognize one of the new members to our organization. She was working with us as a communication analyst. She's currently our interim community relations officer, and that's Ms. Jennifer Zuniga Collier. I think she's been doing an amazing job. She's hit the ground running and has done great. The Blue Santa Parade, I mean, you name it, she's been on it. And so I appreciate her hard work and her effort, and I expect great things to come. So yes, ma'am, welcome. Another thing that I did want to say is that I've been, over the last couple of weeks or so, I've had the opportunity to meet individually with our new members of our team here. And I can only tell you that I'm really excited about our future. I think that these individuals are in it for the right reasons. They want to work in the best interest of the parents and the students of this community. And so we're really excited about that. I know that we already have our Lone Star governance training. The entire team of 8 is committed to that. As soon as we come back in early January, and folks have been getting their TEC training and all these other pieces that need to come with that. So I definitely appreciate all the effort from the team and everybody making that effort to get up to speed as soon as possible. So we're working diligently on that, which leads me to the next point. We're really excited about having everybody on board now, as this is the new team moving forward, and we will be having coming in January, late January, we will be establishing board workshops where we will be discussing the future of our district, specifically speaking on the recently closed campuses such as Athens and Kaizen. I know that when they were closed, it was very much a difficult decision to be made, but a charge that was made at the time of action was to find ways to repurpose and reestablish those facilities at some point and those campuses at some point. And I think that the time is now and the time has come. So as we move forward, what folks can expect from us moving forward is that this team of 8 is coming together so we can revisit all of our data, so we can revisit the possibilities that we have, as there is a sense of urgency from the community and from all stakeholders involved that we definitely need to do something with our campuses moving forward. So we're excited about the possibilities and the opportunities as we move forward. So very excited over that. So I tell everybody, make sure you get your rest, because when we come back, it's going to be fast and intensive. But this is what needs to happen if we're going to take our district to the next level. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much. Oh, yes, thank you for reminding me. So the other thing that I did want to talk about was that I know that recently we just received our feedback on the TEA. We had submitted an appeal for some of our IR campuses due to how the accountability system was set. We just received word on that not too long ago, over the last week or so, that the appeal was denied, And this is not, does not come as a surprise. The reason for the denial is because of exactly how the accountability system is set up. And if, even though you have students that did perform academically up to par in the standardized testing, it was good enough to receive a higher grade average, but because of how the accountability system is set up, when we missed 3 out of those 4 indicators, it automatically defaulted our campuses to a failing grade of 59. And so that's specifically speaking to our middle school campuses. So which has received a formal notification from TEA. Like I said, it wasn't completely unexpected or a surprise, but what you definitely can expect is that we're working diligently to make improvements to our academic programs. And this year, we're encouraged, and we're looking forward to the results at the end of the school year. So, all right, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Flores. At this time now, we will have our citizens to be heard segment. And just as a reminder, the board at this time, during the speaker's presentation, according to what we have on the appendix before, it will not tolerate any disruption of the meeting by members of the audience or individual board members. Any disruption will result in immediate removal of members of the public and possible action of the board to remove a disruptive individual board members. At this time, board members, I would like to ask our Vice President, Mr. Rodriguez, if he would be so kind to conduct this portion of the meeting. Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam President. Citizens to be heard. In the interest of momentum and minimal interruptions, I know we're used to seeing the 1, 2, 3 minute. You'll have 3 minutes to make your comments. So when I hold up the card here, it'll be at 30. You'll have 30 seconds left. So that'll give you your 2.5 minutes or so to kind of build your momentum, get into your comments, and then at the 30-second mark, it'll give you the opportunity to start thinking about, wrapping it up and giving your final comments. So, having said that, our first committee member will be Mr. Ray Saldana.
Board members, Superintendent Flores, and community members, first of all, good evening and Merry Christmas in advance. And I apologize for my informal attire. This is the only thing that is baby vomit proof. And so I left my student home today with a 6-week-old at home to care for. So I'm coming here actually in the spirit of partnership. And as we're going into 2019, I hope that in 2019 that you'll accept an invitation for us to maybe sit down and brainstorm and share notes about potential possibility to bring in a community conversation and discuss what's possible at Casey Middle School. That's my former middle school. And I want to talk a little bit about what really is the timing for this. You see, as I've served on the City Council for 8 years, what I've learned, more importantly than anything else, is that it is much more important to get something done and to do it. You can do it alone or you can do it with a partner. So you can go much further in partnership, I know, whether it was the partnership we built with Southwest Independent School District and the new natatorium that we're building in Traders Village, a Central Med clinic, and we partnered with Central Med right across Shepherd Middle School, or even an example as small as the continued partnerships that we already have with our Learn to Swim program for second graders, and of course our after-school investments that the city has made. So I say the term timing because the city, and we've been planning for about a year and a half, what we're going to do about the Willie Cortez Senior Center. It's a senior center off Military Drive. If you've driven past it, if you were to actually knock on the door and go inside, it is bursting at the seams with seniors. So we are earmarking what potentially will be a large multi-generational center, but it's going to be specifically focused on seniors. So we're going to have about $10 to $15 million that the city will commit to this in the 2022 bond if the voters will approve it. It's going to be a close to $850 million plus bond opportunity. And so I say that it is better that we partner and think about what's possible because we can do more together. And we consider what might happen if we do potentially partner to do a senior center. We're going to find a place to build it. We're going to build it up. But if we could partner with the school district and look at Kaizen and say we can serve more than just seniors, but make it a multi-generational center where we partner with groups like the Boys and Girls Club or the YMCA or a library service and make it more expansive than just a senior center, that really is only possible through the partnership. And so I will present you with what I hope will be an invitation. We'll get to sit down once 2019 to really come together with the community to dream together about dreaming big and bold because at the end of the day, the ambitions you all have for this district are bold. The ambitions I have for the community are big. And going together is probably a lot better than doing it alone. So I hope that you'll consider what the city can offer in bringing forward close to $10 or $15 million to partner with the school district in something that can bring a huge impact to the community. These things take time. So this could be the building. I have already earmarked money for the master planning of the architectural engineering of something like this. And as many folks know, first in line is first to get fed. And if we have a master plan together with this school district, it is first in line to be funded potentially in 2022. So I present that to you as an opportunity for us to not just do a senior center, but also for our children and for the seniors and everyone in between. Thank you.
Thank you. Next citizen to be heard is Mr. Tom Cummings. Yes, sir. And just a reminder, Mr. Cummings, when you see the pink card, you'll have 30 seconds.
Thank you. Just members of the board, Dr. Flores, members of the audience and administrative staff, my name is Tom Cummings. I'm representing South San AFT. Item 8 of the consent agenda concerns possible charter school partnerships, privatization of schools, or corporate grants intended for privately managed schools. South San AFT firmly opposes any of these plans or options. San Antonio ISD is currently undergoing privatization and partnerships with charter schools in 4 of their schools. It's not going well, despite what the developers and their media boosters say. Their job, the charter schools, is to drive the low-wealth, mostly minority families out of the district as it is gentrified. The children's education of those families is not a priority. Furthermore, profit is also a motive. For example, the head of the IDEA charter school made $478,000 in pay and benefits in 2016. The superintendent made $306,000 in 2016, and they only have 30,000 students. If you combine all their pay and benefits, the 2 of them made $868,000 in 1 year. That is way beyond what anybody in the Northside ISD administration would receive, and they have an excess of 100,000 students. Charters are a money-making proposition at the expense of students and taxpayers. On the other hand, South San has a community that cares about its neighborhood schools. South San Schools Unite neighborhoods. Recently, that wasn't understood or cared about by the media, who wanted Athens and Kazin closed. The closings were very unfortunate decisions. However, the state legislature is meeting in January, and there's a lot of pressure and optimism that school funding will be increased for all districts, including South San. We hope that you as individual board members will also work to get that increased funding, and that this increased funding can be an opportunity for educational improvement in South San. This benefits our neighborhoods. Our union is eager to work with you to make a strong South San. Please vote no on any charter proposition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings. Our next citizen to be heard is Mr. Raul Bravo. Mr. Bravo, just a reminder, sir, when you see the pink card, you have 30 seconds.
Good evening, members of the board and Dr. Flores. My voice sounds a little raspy is because of Mount Cedar. My voice doesn't sound like this, but that's what most of the calls are Mount Cedar. At any rate, Here's a quick review of the past year. We closed down Athens Elementary, Casey Middle School. Parents removed their children from the school district rather than sending their child to the assigned schools. We lost enrollment. For the past 3 years, we lost our most experienced teachers because they were not appreciated. And the result of that loss has taken its toll. Then, an ill-planned, ill-advised, and less than factual TRE was forced upon this community. The TRE failed despite the power brokers doing everything possible, legal and illegal, to get the TRE passed. And then our school district received a D academic rating, along with 5 improvement required campuses. By the way, the superintendent board will be held responsible for the next academic ratings, fair or unfair. So where are we today? Our schools are still closed. We have 4 new board members sitting on the dais this evening. There's a reason for that. New members, I strongly encourage you to remember not to forget what you heard from your voters during your campaigns. Depending on your community, you probably heard reopen West Campus High School as a regular high school. You heard reopen Athens Elementary as a regular campus. And you also heard reopen Kazin Middle School as a regular campus. Here's a prediction. If you do not reopen these schools on a regular basis, your chances of passing a TRE or bond are diminished. I would say your chances are slim to none. For those of you who want our schools to be reopened, I would say to you, stay the course. Do not settle for less. Members of the board, remember, the school business is a predictable cycle. In other words, plan today. If you want to effect changes for the beginning of the next school year, otherwise we will lose the entire school year. Can we afford to lose another year? I don't think so. Open our schools and they will come. Put out the welcome mat that says, welcome back home to Athens. Welcome back home to Kazin, and welcome back home to West Campus High School. The offer you heard this evening from Councilman Saldana is a good one. I will take it. However, with no strings attached. We are a traditional school district, and the image of this school district should be tarnished. I don't mean that in a bad way. If he wants to help, we should take it without strings attached. One last thing.
Your 3 minutes are
I think you'll enjoy it. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Merry Christmas, and God blesses everyone. Thank you.
Next on our citizens to be heard is Ms. Stacy Alderete. So Alderete, just a reminder, when you see the pink card, you have 30 seconds.
Good evening, members of the board. I too have issues with my my voice today. Dr. Flores, today I come to you and I would like to speak about the hoopla I've been seeing on social media, which involves our campuses. I've had the conversation already with our superintendent. I'm here on behalf of the Southside Accountability PAC, and we as a PAC have asked that both campuses be reopened as regular campuses. We were out there working the streets. We were out there knocking on the doors. We heard from those families. The offer from the councilman is great, but I would like to even agree with Mr. Prado that with no strings attached. You know, if you want to help us out, the promise to our community was when we reopened these and we repurposed these, it was going to be for the children. It wasn't going to be to private entities. It wasn't going to be to anything other than the children. So for us to open it up in any other way is lying to the community. And I speak to all board members to heed caution, because you need to follow what was promised, those of you that were sitting on this board, when they closed the campuses. We made a promise to the community, it needs to be kept. And we can use these campuses with a smaller footprint. There's ways to do this. We can access other things, other entities to come in, such as counseling, mental health, dental, things that you yourself, Mr. Superintendent, has stated. We need to also help not just the educational part, but the outside, the families. And I think that us selling off our buildings to the city is not the answer. We need to look hard and deep. We have the funds to do it. I know they're there. I was on the board. And it's going to need a solid plan. But we need to reopen these for our children, not for the city of San Antonio. A senior center is a great idea, but not a great idea for a school who has 5 IR campuses. We need to think of what we can use them for our 5 IR campuses, not a senior center. Thank you. God bless y'all. Have a great holiday and Merry Christmas.
Madam President, that concludes everyone on the citizens here.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Thank you, everyone, for coming here tonight. We're going to continue with our business at hand. The next item is presentation, reports, and discussion. And item number 1 is a report of superintendent constraint 1, attendance averages.
Yes, Dr. Flores. I'm going to ask our Director of Assessment and Accountability, Ms. Denise Orozco, to lead us through this presentation.
Okay, good evening, Madam President, members of the board, and of course, Dr. Flores. I'm Denise Orozco. I'm in charge of assessments and accountability, which includes the attendance and truancy program. What we're going over tonight is the superintendent's constraint progress measures. We're looking at the progress measures 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3. So just a reminder of what the overall constraint was. The superintendent will not allow student attendance to fall below a certain percentage for each of the different levels of schooling. So we're looking at that it will not fall below 94.98% at the elementary level, 93.6% for the middle school level, and 90% for the high school level. So that's the overall constraint. Now, the yearly attendance average, it's not part of the constraint right now, but I think it's very important that we know where we're at. So what we're looking at on this slide is we're looking at previous years and the end of the year percentages. What I want to point out is that on the far right side for the 18-19, what we're looking at is we're looking at the average attendance right now for the first 2 6-week period. Yes, we take daily attendance every day at every grade level for the secondary and every class period. But what we're looking at here is our ADA period, and we're looking at it for only the first 2 6-week periods. Even though our grades come out every 9 weeks, our attendance is looked at every 6 weeks. So right now we're sitting at 94.89%. This will change after Friday because this, of course, is ending our semester and will end another 6 weeks period. Now, looking at our first constraint progress measure, and that's what the CPM is, what we're looking at for this first one reads, the student attendance rate at the elementary school level shall increase from 94.98% in 2018 to 95.98% by 2022. That's the overall. What I highlighted was what we're looking at for the end of this school year for 2019. We will meet the following target, 95.23% for 2019 for the elementary school level. But it's important, even though that's not addressing each individual school, to know where each of our schools are right now. So the graph that you're looking at right now shows each of the elementary school attendance averages. The way they're positioned right now is in alphabetical order. We're looking at the lowest attendance rate right now for the first 2 6-week periods is 95.44 for Kindred, and the highest is at 97.02 for Benavides. It's less than a 2 percentage point difference. It's, I believe, a 1.58 percentage point difference between the highest and lowest. But I know sometimes it's easier to look at it just from highest to lowest, and that's what we like for the bar graph. So I put a bigger one for you all on that. So again, Kindred and Benavides are the highest and lowest. What I'd like to point out is that the overall elementary average right now is 96.27. So when you realize that our end of the year target is 95.23, we're above that target right now. We're set to meet that end of the year goal. And what I also like to point out is that if you were just to do, because when we look at Kindred, I know sometimes we look at the lowest average, when you look at Kindred at 95.44, just a 1 percentage point increase, 96.44 goes all the way up to where Madla is. So all of the all of the elementary schools are very close together right now. Now moving on to the middle schools, again, the constrained progress measure reads the same. It's talking about the progress that we're looking at from 2018 to 22. So where that the attendance rate at the middle school level shall increase from 93.6% in 2018 to 94.6% by 2022. And we will meet the following target, 93.85% for the end of this school year 2019. I don't have to do another graph on this one because they fell in place on this one. So for Dwight, we have 94.72, and then Zamora at the highest, 95.56. And the average right now for all three is 95.22, so we're well above the target what we're looking at for the end of the school year. And then finally, our high school. This one, I have one bar for this, so this one's pretty easy. So the student attendance rate at the high school level shall increase from 90.03 in 2018 to 91.03 by 2022. And will meet the following target, 90.28 in 2019. So again, for all three levels, including the high school level, we're on target to reach our 2019 goal. We're at 92.35 right now. So of course, that's all good, well to know all of the different percentage rates, but we know that there's still areas when we look at these percentage rates that we need to focus upon. So we're looking at improving the following areas. So we know we need to improve educational opportunities for parents to understand the impact that truancy has on both them and their students and what they can do to minimize the effects. We also want to provide educational opportunities to the schools themselves, and so that they understand their changing role in improving attendance, not just the municipal courts, but what they do. We're also looking at improving our partnerships, which we actually are already doing within the school district. Our partnership with the School Climate Transformation Grant staff, a lot of times you hear them referred to as the PBIS team on the campuses. We already are working with them to provide wraparound services, identifying the socio-emotional reasons for chronic absenteeism. And we also want to improve addressing excessive absences and documenting the patterns of student and parent behavior so we can find out what we need to do as a district to improve attendance. So immediate recommendations right now, what we're looking at, and some of them, like I said, we already are taking part in. So immediate recommendation is we are coordinating with the wraparound services team, which is what we have right now. And to backtrack a little bit for our members, is we partnered with Our Lady of the Lake University and UTSA to get social work interns into the school district. We started this at the end of last year, and it's already in place this school year. We have them at all the levels, elementary, middle, and high school, and we have these social work interns who are about to graduate, who need that practical experience, and they're assisting us. So we're already working with that, and we're coordinating those services, and some of that does have to deal with targeting the root causes of the chronic absenteeism. Our other recommendation is creating a district attendance committee, because again, teaming together and working together and figuring out what is best for the district is important to begin identifying and recommending fundamental systems needed to improve attendance. And then our other recommendation is to purchase an online attendance tracking system to help relieve the paperwork that our two truancy officers, I have two truancy officers that work with me, and that has dwindled down to where I have two now. So I have Mr. Gilbert Cavazos, who works at the high school, and then I have Mr. Jerry Dominguez, who works at the elementary and middle schools. And so one of our immediate recommendations that we'll be bringing before, recommending is purchasing this program to alleviate the paperwork so they do more home visits, more parent mediations, more contact with the families. And so that's my presentation right now, so if you have any questions or comments, I'd be happy to answer them.
Board members, at this time, if there are any questions or comments, this is part of the Lone Star governance, so there's no 2-minute requirement. Anyone have any questions? Ms. Flores?
Yes, Denise, on the data that you gave us for the elementaries, that includes pre-K as well?
Yes, ma'am, this is all of the grades. This is all grades, ADA, what we submit to PEAS.
Okay, so as long as the student is enrolled, then the child is accounted present or absent on that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Flores?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to make a comment. Okay, with permission from Dr. Flores, I've attended some of the coffee with principals, segments that they have at the schools. And I'll tell you, I've been impressed with some of the principals' creativity. Because I see that we're hitting attendance marks, right?
Yes.
And they've been creative because some of these kids, and I've only been to a couple of elementaries that are closest to the single member district I represent. And when the child's walking through the front doors and there's 5, 10 bikes right there, and I'm asking the principal, what are these bikes? I mean, I almost want one. And so I'm asking, and she said, well, it's for attendance. They're going to be part of a raffle. And I'll tell you, that got me going right off the bat when I walked through because I was impressed with the creativity from the principal. And I could imagine the kids wanting to go to school every day.
Yes.
Sick or whatever. Well, anyhow, I was excited to see that. And going to a different elementary school, I saw the creativity of a different principal. That attendance, they get points, they get to buy things from the store.
Yes.
Or another school that they had all grades participate in an igloo and they get to build it and go through it, or all these things. And so I was super impressed just walking through the doors of those schools. And then actually getting into that intimate setting with the principal and the children, the parents, and then seeing the support system that the parents are giving to the principal. And so I was blown away. I was trying to be hidden, but of course, they find out a little thing. But I was happy to take part in crafts. They had raffles for the parents. I didn't win any of them, but I was 0 for 3. And so, but you know what? I saw the principal giving the information to the parents on truancy and how important it was because they did bring it up. And so I was super excited that they were giving them pertinent information and saying that that's not everybody. There were more parents part of that group. And so I was amazed, and I guess seeing across the board that average is doing well. I'm excited and want to see creativity from all other schools. And, so.
And I'm excited that you noticed that because every single campus, elementary through high school, does provide an incentive program. Sometimes many of them, a lot of them, especially at the elementary, it's right when you walk in the front door. Taking Kindred, for instance, they may be at 95, 144, but when you walk in, it's right there at the office, and they have a board of what their attendance is. You might have wanted to buy it, you might get a pair of sneakers. So those incentives are, they're really doing a lot of things with it, and I couldn't be prouder because we're no longer just focusing on attendance that they're missing. Now we're really doing, it's just been growing more and more each year for it. But on top of that, besides the attendance incentives, is we are looking at trying to find those root causes of why the kids are missing. And that's even more important in some cases, is understanding what can we do to service those students, what can we do as a district to ensure that they're there, because if they're missing, there's a reason. And that's our job to find out and to help fix it.
Any other questions, comments? No? Ms. Martinez?
Ms. Orozco, does this number include excuse, it's all of?
It's the ADA period, yes ma'am. So it would be whether, if they're absent at that point, it includes that. Now, whether or not, the way we address it for like warning letters or taking students, that's different, like a doctor's excuse or when we meet, it's vital that we meet with the families. So at a certain point, we start bringing in parents and to the schools to meet with the administrators and the counselors or the truancy officers and sit down and try to find out what's happening, because if there are medical reasons or there's other reasons, transportation or something in the families, maybe somebody needs, a high school student needs to work, or I know a middle school student that sometimes if the mom doesn't have childcare, he stays home and watches. So once we get that, then it's still an absence, but we don't treat it the same as we move forward for perhaps sending for mediation or anything like that. But yes, an absence is that.
And tardies as well.
Tardies are different. Tardies, if that's not an absence, but tardies are really important and something that we're attacking at all the grade levels, especially the secondary, because bottom line is if you're tardy, that's just a little bit. But if you're late, chances are you're not going to come to school, which then transfers to not coming in for that ADA period. I know there are some instances, or even middle schoolers, that if they by chance miss the bus, they're not going to come in. So it's not so much, and the parents have, well, I told them to walk, but I mean, by that point, they're riding the bus for a reason of the distance. And so, but tardies doesn't affect the averages, no.
Okay.
Any other questions, board members? No? Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is number 2, report on goal. And on goal 3 and goal progress measures 3.1 and 3.2, % of students performing at master's level in reading. Dr. Flores?
Yes, Ms. Shields, you present, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Madam President, board members, Dr. Flores. I'm here to present on goal 3 and goal progress measures 3.1 and 3.2, which are about our reading goals. We did provide you with a detailed report, which included data by campus. But in the interest of time, I'm going to summarize the elementary data and summarize the middle school data. So to review goal 3, it is about the % of students we would like to have performing at the master's grade level performance standard on state reading exams. Our goal is 20% by 2022, but our 2019 goal is 12.8%. Goal progress measure 3.1 is focused on the master's level performance of third graders, and our 2019 goal is 14% of our third graders performing at the master's level. Goal progress measure 3.2 is about the master's performance level of our fifth graders, and our goal is 15.5% by 2019. I want to review what reading assessment tools we use to assess when we do assess. In K through 5, in both English and Spanish, is iStation. It's an online assessment. We give it 3 times yearly, and we also, when the students log on at the beginning of each month, it automatically progress monitors them and gives us that data. In grades 6 to 8, we use measures of academic progress for reading, and we also use it for math, which I reported on last month. It is an online adaptive assessment, and we do also give it 3 times yearly. So first we're going to review the elementary data, which is iStation. So when students take iStation, an iStation assessment, it classifies them into 3 tiers. So you're going to see on the graphs, you're going to see 3 colors. You're going to see kind of a tealish blue, a yellow, and a red. So tier 1, which is the tealish blue, are students who are on track to meet grade level expectations. The yellow are tier 2 students, so they are at some risk of not meeting grade level expectations, so they would need some interventions. And then the tier 3 students are the kind of maroon, dark red, and they are at significant risk of not meeting grade level expectations. So this graph shows the percentage of students, all of them, all kindergartners, all first graders, all K through 5, and these would be our English. So each band shows you the percentage of students in each tier. This is our Spanish, K through 5 Spanish data. And so you would notice that as we get to 4th and 5th grade, we don't have as many students taking iStation in Spanish because they are transitioning to English. And you also see that we have at that point too, if they are taking it in Spanish, we have very few students in that dark red. So we have very few students struggling in Spanish in those upper grades. This shows all students together, K through 5 for each campus by tier, the percentage of students in each tier. So tier 1 students, remember, they're on track. Tier 2 students are slightly at risk. Tier 3 students are significantly at risk. So some of the strengths in the data would be these. So at Armstrong in 3rd grade, we have 62% of the students, tier 1, which means they are on track to meet grade level standards. Carrillo, they have very few students in 5th grade that are tier 3, which are the ones that are struggling the most. At Five Palms, when you combine their English and Spanish data, they have 62% of their students on track in 4th grade to meet grade level standards. In Hutchins, 3rd grade, 69% of the students, English and Spanish, are on track to meet grade level expectations. Madla, in their kindergarten, 58% of the students are on track, as well as their 3rd grade students. 58% of them are on track to meet grade level expectations. Palo Alto 1st grade, this is maybe the highest percentage I've seen, and this is my 3rd year in the district. So this is great, because remember, this is beginning of the year data with only 4 weeks of, and maybe 5 weeks of instruction at this point. So that's a number that Ms. Benavides should really be proud of, and her teachers. Her 5th grade, she has very few 5th graders that are significantly struggling. And the Spanish data in grades 1 through 3 at our bilingual campuses, those are areas of strength for us as well. So when you look at areas of focus in the data, things that the campuses are focusing on, you might have noticed when you look at the campus data that Kindred and Carrillo, both of our elementary and our campuses, they did have a high number of tier 3 students in several grade levels. So this data, like I said, was October data, so they have since hired additional staff to provide targeted tier 3 interventions, and they both have an instructional coach that is dedicated to reading support for the teachers. So I listed the tier 3 students because these are areas of focus, but I also put the number of students out there because sometimes I think like it's easier to think in terms of students than it is percentages. So you can see they have, depending on the grade, the campus, they have a significant number of students who need those significant targeted interventions to get them back on track. So all of our, you may remember that we are engaging in a lot of professional learning about balanced literacy, particularly focusing on guided reading. So students are receiving instruction in K through 3 on their instructional reading level from their teacher daily, but the tier 3 students receive additional targeted reading instruction in small groups. The reading teachers, the paraprofessionals, and additional staff that work with those tier 3 students were recently trained to use the level literacy intervention kits. And also at the bottom it shows, depending on what tier they're in at the station, they spend time, this is like an additional layer of support, so they spend time on iStation. So when they took their initial iStation test, it customized a pathway and said, this student needs working on these skills. So every time they log on, it's giving them work in their particular skills that they need to work on. So if the student is on track, they spend less time on the program. And if a student is significantly needs interventions, then they spend 90 minutes or more on the program a week. We can get a STAR performance predictor from our iStation data, although I would say with 5 or 6 weeks of instruction, we have a lot of instruction left, and we have a lot of time for interventions with our kiddos. And so this kind of shows if we had taken STAR that day, this is what the prediction would be off of that data with 4 to 5 weeks of instruction. So now we have taken 2 rounds of benchmarks, and I believe that 3rd grade is, according to their benchmarks, they were at 3.17% masters, and the 5th grade were already at 10.79% achieving the master's level performance. So that's just an additional data point that I wanted to provide to you. That was not, the elementaries just took their benchmarks last week, so I didn't have that data point when I prepared this report for you. So remember that goal progress measure 3.1 is focused on 3rd grade, which I said we're at 3.17% right now with the master's level, and in 5th grade, 10.79%. And our goals, you can see the 2019 targets up there. You can see how we did on 2018 STAR, and then I put the 2019 targets, the I-station prediction at that point, but then we are beyond that now. So middle school, let's talk about middle school, which is a little bit different. It's measures of academic progress. So middle school, it gives us specific, it tells us specifically what each child needs. It gives us lists of TEKS and things that we need to work on with each student to help fill their gaps. But it also tells us which students are on level and how to accelerate. What are they ready for next? So this is a STAR performance predictor for all our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So that is, if we had taken STAR at the time we took this is the prediction, but as I said, this was after 4 weeks of instruction. We have a lot of instruction left. Much has gone on since the test. So all of the campuses, so we talked about how I-Station is not only an assessment tool, but it's also an intervention tool, and it creates a customized pathway for each of the students. Well, we have Exact Path for middle school, and so when the students took the math assessment, that data was then fed into Exact Path, and that's also what happened for them, is it created a pathway. So it created lessons or skills that they needed to work on. But it's not just for students who need intervention, it's also for students who are ready to be moving on. So that's a little different. I-Station is more focused on kids who are needing intervention, but Exact Path actually does both things. So Dwight also has 2 6th grade reading intervention classes where the students are receiving a combination of those small group face-to-face interventions, and then they're using Exact Path. So they're kind of doing like a rotation. They do a little bit of both. Shepherd has reading intervention classes at all 3 levels, and they are using a resource called Scholastic Short Reads. So they're using those to do small group interventions, and then they're also doing Exact Path, and they also have someone doing small group pullouts throughout the day of their most at-risk students. And then Zamora also has reading intervention classes for each grade level where the students are receiving, like Dwight, a combination of small group face-to-face lessons, and then they're using Exact Path that is their customized online application. So that concludes my presentation, but I'm happy to entertain any questions that you have.
Thank you, Ms. Shields. Board members, are there any questions for Ms. Shields? Ms. Flores, you first.
You would have some questions, right, Amy?
I always expect it.
No, it's actually a very good presentation. Thank you, because it lays out where our students were basically at the end of last year, at the beginning of this year. Because, I mean, we were talking about the first 6 weeks of school and then middle school, the first 4 weeks of school, which leads me to believe when you mentioned Palo Alto, there's 73% of the students that are on track in the 1st grade. That's really the kindergarten teachers from the previous year that had those kids ready for 1st grade, and now 1st grade teachers, they just picking up, where they left off. And that's really what we're looking at, that these kids are ready to go from one grade level to the next. So really my question is, we saw data for all the levels, with the exception of the pre-K, because that's why I asked to begin with, even the pre-Ks that are enrolled. Now we do have full day pre-kinder, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So in the full day pre-kinder program, what is the focus? Are kids going to be ready these little pre-kinders going to be ready after pre-kinder to have some academic skills to come prepared for kinder, because that's really the starting line for the child when they begin school. You know, wherever their instructional start or formal instruction begins, you know, so it's important, I guess, the data. I'm not asking for data at this point, but do we look at the data to see where our pre-kinders are at the end of the year, if they're going to be ready to go on to kinder? Because right now, at this point, on track, we only have half of the kinders ready, about 49% already. The others are at some risk, and the other ones are at significant risk. So what does that tell us? What does our pre-kinder program tell us?
So we do an assessment, and we do look at the data. The assessment for pre-K is done one-on-one, face-to-face. So remember, when kindergarten kids come, they are maybe not real sure about a computer and a mouse, and they've got headphones on, and so we have iStation as one data point, but like remember earlier in the year, I also reported on Fontes and Pinnell data, which is that one-on-one assessment. Our pre-K do follow the pre-K standards, so there are pretty stringent standards about, like, kids have to know 20 letters and sounds coming out of pre-K into kindergarten. So their assessment that they give one-on-one at the end of the year shows whether or not they have mastered those pre-K standards and are ready for kindergarten.
Okay, and then, which brings me to another question. Do we have data that shows that our kindergarten students that start kinder with us, how many of them went to a pre-K program and how many of them did not? Because compulsory ed doesn't start until kinder. So they don't, you know, parents don't have to send them to pre-K.
Right.
You know, and some parents do and some parents don't. So is there data that shows that of those kids that do start pre-kinder or have had pre-kinder, they're already at an advantage than those that don't, that begin school for the first time in kinder? So yes.
We have that data.
You have that data, okay. And then lastly, on attendance with the pre-kinder, is it a challenge to get pre-kinders to come to school every day?
Is there a challenge?
Is it a challenge? Are they normally, because I know they're younger, they're 4-year-olds, they're 3 and 4-year-olds, and sometimes it may be a challenge if it's a really cold day and the parents won't bring them to school. Is that a challenge for us or not a problem?
Good evening, board members. No, it's not a challenge. I'm proud to say that our pre-kinder attendance is very, 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 very good. So it's not a challenge. Our pre-kindergartens and our Head Start kids come to school, our attendance is 95% and above.
That's wonderful.
So we don't have a problem with it.
Okay, great job. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Waters. Board members, anyone else? Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes, Madam President, I just had one question. The visitation and the map, how you describe how it puts a plan together, you know, on the areas that need attention. Is that available at home to the parents to access?
Students can actually log on to iStation from home, and they can actually double check, but I think they can also log on to Mac from home as well.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, any more members? Any more questions? No? I just have one comment, Ms. Shield. I want to thank you for putting the numbers next to the percentages. That's very helpful. It's a clear picture of where we're going. Is it possible to put, I know you were talking about third grade students, that's all third grade students, right, in the district. So it could be put the total number of third grade students, maybe, I'm going to throw a number, 300 third grader students, of the 320 still need approaches or needs. Because that, to me, that looks better, because we have 308 third grade students, we only have 20 more that we need to work on. So if we can show the numbers as well, it gives us an even better idea of where we are.
Okay, I'm happy to do that on the next report.
Would that be okay?
Yes, ma'am. By all means, it's a good idea.
Okay, thank you. Then that concludes the Lone Star governance portion of the agenda. And also I want to comment that the constraints and the goals that we have, because Dr. Flores is new to the district and we have some new board members, we will be having our Lone Star governance training for everybody the first full week of January. So we look forward to it. and they'll give Dr. Flores and the board a chance to revisit his goals and his constraints, because they were based on the previous superintendents. So, but it looks like the numbers are going well, staff is doing a good job, thank you so much. All right, next item is number 3, first quarter budget update, September 1 through November 30th. Dr. Flores.
Yes, Mr. Zamora?
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Flores, this is our first quarterly report for the 2018-19 fiscal year. The first page is a representation of our food service fund. This is a view of our revenues and our appropriations by function, which is how our budget is adopted. Currently, we have a budgeted revenue of almost 7.1 million and budgeted appropriations of almost 8 million. We are intentionally investing into our food service areas, our campuses, our cafeterias, giving them a somewhat makeover and using our fund balance as we are exceeding our maximum allowable fund balance. So we needed to spend this money to get us in line with the maximum, so we are excited to do this for the campuses. Our actual revenues is 1.7 million as of November. This is all as of November 30th. That leaves an available or estimated remaining revenues of 5.3 or almost 5.4 million. Our current encumbrances, which means any POs that have not been paid, is almost 1.1 million, and our actual expenditures, these are bills that have been paid, is 1.5 million. This leaves a budget, a remaining budget of 5.3 million. The last line shows our budgeted surplus or efficiency, and the actual column is just a representation of where we are as of November. It does not mean that that's where we'll be at the end of the year. It's just a snapshot of this time in this time of the year. So currently we have a surplus revenue of 129,000. Go to the next page. Same information, except this is for our debt service fund. Revenues are budgeted at 12.2 million with appropriations of 13.2 million. Our actual revenues received are 254,000 and actual expenditures are 3,400. Leaving available remaining revenues of 11.9 million and remaining budget or appropriations of 13.2 million. And again, our excess or overage is in the budget, almost $1 million, and then our current actual revenues over expenditures is 251,000. This next one is a look at our food service fund, and this is by object for the new board members. Our budget has many details as far as how to identify what the expenditures are, and I apologize for not discussing the function earlier. The function level is basically tells us different areas of the district, so maintenance, administration, instruction, things of that nature, and hopefully in the near future we'll definitely provide some workshops to go over everything. One of the areas that we look at is by object code, which is salaries is 6,100, 6,200 is contracted services, 6,300 are supplies and equipment, 6,400 is travel and miscellaneous, and 6,600 are items, expenditures or capital assets, which are items over $5,000. So this is a view of now the budget based on the object code. So the revenues don't change, but the bottom portion of the proposed appropriations does change. The 6,100s are budgeted at 3.1 million, with an actual expenditure of 835,000 and remaining available appropriations of 2.3 million. Our 6,200s which is contracted services, has a budget of $457,000, encumbrances of $91,000, actual expenditures of $54,000, leaving a remaining balance of $311,000, and our 6,300 is $4 million, and encumbrances of $845,000, actuals of $643,000, and available remaining budget of $2.6 million. Our 6,400, which is travel and miscellaneous, has a budget of $32,000, actual expenditures of almost $5,000, with a remaining balance of $27,000. And our 6,600 is $187,000, encumbrances of $144,000, and actuals of $40,000, leaving a remaining balance of $3,000. Total budget is $7.9 million, total encumbrance is $1 million, and actuals is $1.5 million, with a total remaining available balance of $5.3 million. The excess, the excess and surplus stay the same for the budget and the actuals. And again, this is our food service fund. This is our general fund. So this is the operating fund for the district. This is by function. Our total revenue is budgeted at $71.8 million. Budgeted appropriations is $74 million, with the deficit of $2.1 million. Our revenues as of November 30th are $19 million. The remaining available estimated revenues is $52.8 million. And our appropriations are actual, our encumbrances is $2 million. Our actual appropriations is $17.2 million. We're leaving a remaining appropriations of $54.5 million. Our current budget position for the year is, again, a loss of our deficit of $2 million, and our actual, again, as of November 30th, is a positive $1.7 million. To the next page. This is the general fund, looking at it by object. Again, the revenues do not change on the bottom section of the report. Our 6,100, which is salaries, is budgeted at almost $61.4 million, with actuals of $14.4 million, leaving a remaining balance of $46.9 million. 6,200 is $6.6 million, an encumbrance of $1 million, and the actual expenditures of $1.4 million, and available balance of $4.1 million. Our 6,300s is $3.3 million, encumbrances of $688,000, and actuals of $642,000, with an available balance of $2 million. Our 6,400s is $1.3 million, our encumbrances are almost $80,000, and actuals of $675,000, and an available balance of $569,000. Our 6,600 is $1.3 million, an encumbrance of $485,000, with actual expenditures of $36,000, leaving a remaining balance of $835,000. Our total budget is $74 million, encumbrances is $2.2 million, actuals is $17.2 million, and the remaining available balance is $54 million. I'm sorry. The next slide is the debt service by object code. So the top piece, portion of the report does not change, our revenues do not change. And for our debt service, we only have one object code, which is for our debt payments. Madam Chair, do I go through the different questions that were proposed? Or?
Yes, and I think you also have provided us the information on the other funds, like the tax subsidy, the workman's comp.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. So the next page is our fund balances. These are as of our audit from 2016-17. The general fund at the end of that fiscal year had a fund balance of $20,567,490. There is no separate fund balance for what we have a revenue stream called the federal subsidies that are on some bonds that were passed in 2010. And we'll go a little into more detail about that in some next pages. The workers' compensation program, we have a fund balance of $4,255,795. Our food service fund or child nutrition fund is $2,875,016. And then our debt service fund has a fund balance of $4,724,055. Tax subsidies for the district it was passed to have these subsidies received by the district in 2016-17. These funds are recognized as part of the general fund revenue. These funds are now incorporated into our overall operating budget. So they're not set aside for any specific use. They're just part of another revenue stream that the district receives. So we have local funds, which the majority is our tax revenue. We have state funds, of course, which is the foundation payments. And then we have federal funds, which we receive different revenues for things like E-rate, which is a reimbursement to the district for technology. We have what's called SHARS, which is a reimbursement for special ed services we provide. And then we have our subsidy as well. That is again, a program that was passed as part of the ARA that the district participated in that assists districts to initially pay for bond debt, but that can be utilized to supplement the general fund. The next page is a view of the bond payments as they have been received by the district. The subsidy payment, initial payment was in February 2017 in the amount of $1,437,000 and $1,437,843. The second subsidy payment in August 2017 of $478,849. In 17-18, and this is going to be the same throughout the program, where we receive 2 payments a year, one in February and one in August. So in 17-18, our payment for February was $480,392, and then our payment in August was $480,392 as well, for a total of $960,074. And in 18-19, we're expecting to receive payments in February and August of $482,449.50, for a total of $964,899. Total expected revenues from the subsidy payments at the end of this fiscal year will add up to $3,842,375. Some of the district financial highlights that will be provided as well when we present our annual audit in January. For the fiscal year ending August 31st, 2018, the district's general fund is projected to report a total fund balance of $25,596,192, of which this total amount is currently unassigned. So a district has different categories of fund balances that they can choose to utilize. The unassigned is the most flexible area where it allows the board and administration to utilize these funds in any manner. The other categories are restricted or committed, which lets the board also designate funds to certain areas of need of the district that the board feels that should be addressed. For the fiscal year ending August 31st, 2018, the district's general, worker compensation, debt service, and food service funds are projected to report a total fund balance of $36,387,970, of which $4.2 million is restricted for debt service, 2.8 is reserved for food service, and 3.7 is designated for workers' compensation, And then again, 25.5 is unassigned in general fund. The different funds, the debt service, the food service, workers' comp, those are limited in what they can be used for, and they can only be used for the areas that they are in. So debt service fund balance can only be used to help pay the debt service payments, and can be used for no other purpose. Same thing with food service. It's a federal grant, so we are unable to utilize those funds in any other way but for the food service program. And the workers' compensation is limited in its use as well for workers' compensation claims. At the end of the fiscal year, the district's governmental funds, which is the general fund, debt service fund, food service, and workers' compensation, are projected to report a combined ending fund balance of $36.3 million. And that's the last page.
Thank you, Mr. Samora. Before I ask if there's any questions, I'd like to, if I could explain. This was placed on the agenda, and Dr. Flores and I spoke about it. PEA, when they came in and investigated, cited the board for not having oversight over our finances. And one of the things that we failed to do was get budget quarterly updates. The auditors in their audit last year also noted that the board should be getting quarterly updates, and we had not been, not to this extent. And so this was the time to start. I don't want TEA coming back down on us anymore. So I've asked Dr. Flores, and he agreed that we should be getting quarterly reports on where the budget is in all areas, so we know where our money is going, are we overspending or not, are we underspending, and this way we meet that requirement of TEA. And so at our agenda setting meeting, Mr. Ed was there as well, and from Region 20, and he concurred we should be getting quarterly reports. And that's the reason we're getting such a detailed report today, so we can comply with what TEA is requiring. Okay? So at this time, if there are any questions, Mr. Ibarra? May I remind you, I'm sorry, Mr. Ibarra, this is not an LSG, so it's 2 minutes. After you ask the question, it's 2 minutes.
Thank you for the report, Jason. The subsidy payments run to when? When do those end, sir? Or do they have an end date?
They do have an end date. I don't know the date at this time, but I'd be glad to get you that information.
Can you just email the board? Can we do that?
Yes, sir.
And then the general fund balance, the 25,000,005 that's unassigned, what does that represent in months of reserve for the district to run?
So currently our budget is at 74 million, so it runs about, it's 3 months, or just take that divided by 12, it's going to run us about 18 million for a 3-month reserve. And so based on that, we will be at a 4-month reserve at that point.
With the money that we have unassigned right now in the general fund, we're at about 4 months operating.
Correct.
That represents about 4 months operating.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes. Where we're currently at is a 4 months reserve.
Okay. That's all my question.
Thank you, Mr. Ibarra.
That was my question.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Ms.
How many
Flores.
months is the reserve?
Well, no, let me go back, so, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, they don't have numbers, but the very first slide of our fund balance, the 2016-17, is the confirmed fund balance. That was a 3-month reserve. Where we expect to be at the end of this audit, the 17-18 audit, where I have the $25 million number, that will then put us at a 4-month reserve. But again, it's unofficial, it's not finalized, but that's where we're going to expect to end up.
Thank you. Anyone else? Board members? Any more questions?
Well, I just want to make a comment, is that it is important that we do maintain at least a 3-month fund balance, and it's unassigned funds as per PEA regulations and guidelines. What we don't want to do is fall below that 3-month line, because that has the potential to affect our first financial rating at the end of the year. So it's just important just to take note of those facts.
Any other questions, board members?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Thank you. Thank you for the report, Mr. Zamora. Just one fundamental question to start. So we budget per object, and it's not, the budget is not expended. Do we roll that over? Does that get incorporated into the next year's budget? The previous year balances roll into?
No, we always start with a baseline budget for the new year. So any funds that are not expended from the previous year, that is how we incorporate it, or that's how we increase the next year's fund balance. So it doesn't go into the next year's budget unless there's designations either by the board or by administration to say, of that, let's say, $25 million fund balance, we're going to use $1 million of that to repair HVAC systems. We'll come to the board, we'll make that designation, increase our budget at the beginning of the year, or we can adopt a deficit budget at the adoption cycle, knowing that we have enough fund balance to cover that deficit. But the remaining funds from the previous year do not carry over to the accounts to allow that department to have additional funds at that time.
Okay, thank you. And a question, and it might be for legal counsel, and what Mr. Zamora just described, those expenditures or those rollovers, those amendments would require board approval, is that correct?
Yes, what unexpended balances from 1 year roll over to the bottom line, there's no automatic reappropriation. So yes, the money goes back to the fund balance, and then if you want to spend the funds the next year, you reappropriate it.
Thank you, sir. And then relative to and I just jotted some notes down here as I was listening to the presentation. Mr. Ibarra asked about the tax subsidy payments and when we estimate the final payment to be, and Mrs. Moore is going to get back to us on that. But do we have a timeline of was it 5 years, 3 years, 6 months, how many years those we should
I want to say it was 20 years.
20 years?
20 years, but I'll confirm that. Okay.
And then
Yeah, if I may interject, because I was here at the time when we approved that, if I'm not mistaken, you confirmed, Mr. Samara, it was actually for 10 years. So we were going to see a total of $10 million in 10 years for an allocation of $1 million each year in 2 payments. If it's 20 years, please tell me, I would be happy.
Again, I'll confirm it to the board.
Mr. O'Hanlon, you were going to...
Yeah, it was the balance of the bonds. These are American Recovery Act bonds, and they accrue interest. So the interest rates, they're taxable, so they accrue a higher interest rate. This represents a federal subsidy, essentially, to make them net cost to the district that was comparable to the schoolhouse, the tax-free bonds that they were issuing. So it goes for the duration of the bonds.
Thank you, sir. And just to press forward on that, the tax subsidy, as I'm understanding the explanation, are derived from the refinance of bonds. Is that correct?
The tax subsidy comes from the difference that was observed at the point of sale between the rate that you got for the taxable bonds and what, through a formula they derived, that you would have gotten on the non-taxable bonds. The federal government, in order to do shovel-ready projects, decided to do the subsidy to make as an inducement for governmental entities to issue build these projects. So it's a formula that was derived at the point when the bonds were issued.
Thank you, sir. I like that term, shovel-ready. I'm going to use it. Shovel-ready. So having that subsidy come from bonds, are we limited on what that can be used for? How we can expend that?
Mr. O'Hanlon, before you comment, Mr. Rodriguez, once he answers, your 2 minutes will be up.
Okay.
And if there's time left over, we can go back around.
Okay, thank you.
The money that comes back, it can be expended at the discretion. It's returned to the board, it's returned to the district. It can be expended at the direction of the Board of Trustees.
And if, Madam Chair, I did pull up the information on the subsidy. We will receive payments through 2037. Now, through 2037, we'll receive subsidy payments. Now, if they don't continue to be at the level that they are today of $900,000 a year, They do start to diminish in 2028 where they go down to about 500,000.
So the first 10 years then for sure will be at least $1 million every year.
The first 10 years through 2027, they are at about the $900,000 level.
That's good news. Thank you. Okay, before we go back to a second round, with any other board members that has questions on this first round? Mr. Flores.
I have a question. It's for Mr. Hamlin. The tax subsidy, does it have, is it for specific uses?
The tax subsidy is calculated it's calculated based upon the interest spread between taxable and non-taxable bonds. That being said, once it is paid, it's paid to the district. The district has adopted a resolution that authorizes you, which is authorized under statute, to expend that money in an unrestricted fashion. So you can spend it any way you want in terms of, you still have to pay the bonds, but this pot of money that comes back can be expended for any purpose.
It has to be just with board approval?
All expenditures of funds, of any district funds, need board approval, and usually, typically in the form of the budget. So yes, absolutely.
Well, I'm encouraged by the fund, and especially that tax subsidy and probably its specific applications. Dr. Flores and I had a spirited conversation recently, and some of the goals that he and I were discussing, especially he asking me, was to try and see about school openings, and particularly Kaizen, because Kaizen is in my district. And I'm the representative for that single member District 3. So the community overwhelmingly expressed their vote for me, and they want to see their middle school open, and I think these funds can help with the remodeling, with fixing up, with a touch-up, into the traditional campus that they want. Maybe with an academy footprint to match all the other three. It can be applied to help, again, fix, remodel, renovate, and hopefully something that can happen by fall. There's the competitors are out there, they're building wings, they're building them without any kind of security on the numbers of kids that are going to attend. The idea for Kaizen's return is, one, to hopefully see a revenue generated. Okay, lure the kids back, the ones that need to come back. To help reduce class sizes and overwhelmed teacher. Oh, I'm sorry, help reduce class sizes for overwhelmed teachers. The climate of our IR campuses are putting our kids in other schools. And I'm hoping that this fund balance can help alleviate kids going from there but coming back here and definitely helping our kids, help our district.
Okay, thank you. You're 2 minutes in. Okay, anyone else on this first go-round has comments to make on the presentation?
Madam Chairman?
Yes, Ms. Ivani.
I would like to add to what Mr. Flores said. I represent in my community the parents in Athens, and they voiced their concern of opening up Athens as a traditional campus and with the bilingual classes as well. And I just really hope to get this out there for our our community. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Peña. Your time was less than a minute, so we have more time. If anybody would like a second round of comments at this time, please, Mr. Rodriguez.
So do I have a minute, Madam President?
We only utilize like 5 minutes, so
Yeah.
you can have another 2 minutes.
Again, this is, I'd like to echo off of Mr. Flores. It's exciting. I'm sure Dr. Flores is ecstatic that we can, that we have some funds that are available to us to spend at how we determine wherever we need it. And I'm sure Dr. Flores has plenty of ideas for that. As everyone is aware, we have 40 board members, and we all campaigned on specific things, and the community, I'm speaking as for my specific district now, it's exciting to have this knowledge of potential revenue to possibly, open campuses. Every board member here represents a certain amount of elementaries and a middle school, and we'll only have one high school. But we really need 2 high schools, for a multitude of reasons, and those are, I look forward to the workshop that we can all sit down and discuss those ideas, but certainly for my district, overwhelmingly, on every door that I knocked was West Campus High School. We need a second high school. It's a commute to get down to South San. It's a walk to get to here to get bused to South San. We have elementaries in the area. We have a middle school that deserves and actually, quite honestly, requires a high school on this side. So I'm hopeful that in our workshop we can engage in those conversations and bring these funds that we see will be available to us for the foreseeable future, it seems, and have those discussions to potentially talk about opening up West Campus and a plan for that.
You have 5 seconds, Mr. Rodriguez.
So very excited, very excited. Thank you.
Thank you. I too would like to ask questions if I could, and I know I have 2 minutes, so I'll see my clock. Basically, I just need clarification from Mr. Zamora, Dr. Flores. On your, I had asked a question about the employee self-funded fund.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think you said, and my question was there a contribution, an initial contribution? You said there was not an initial contribution
That's correct.
at that time. So is it my understanding that the insurance self-funded fund works like a workman's comp fund, where employees are paying premiums to the district, and that is the money that's used to pay the claims as they come up?
Well, it's just not the employee contributions, but it's the employer contribution. So again, we participate with the health insurance as part of our benefit package. So both pieces together, monthly, we recognize the expenditure of the employer contribution and set that aside, as well as the contribution from the employee. So we use both pots of money to pay the claims that come up in a given month.
But I'm assuming those pots of money grow as time goes.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that what it is?
Yes, ma'am.
So it's not one lump sum that's put aside, it's just growing as you're paying the premiums and that other sum of money comes in?
Correct, and actually we here at South San, we collect a month in advance, and so the premiums we collect, we're always ahead of the actual month that we're covering. So we are cash flow wise are in a positive position.
Okay. Well, I think that answered my question. I just need clarification.
Yes,
The other thing I needed clarification on, and correct me if I'm wrong, you just went over the highlights, the financial highlights. And on your financial highlights, it says that the projected total fund balance is $25,596,192, but then you also gave the exact same number, which is unassigned. And I went back to last year's highlights, and it was totally different because the auditors in last year's highlights, and I understand this is just an estimate, they showed a fund balance of $27,698,301, of which unassigned was only $20,569,999. So it was a little less. So are we then, is this a wash then?
So in last year's amounts, the 27 million number makes up of the child nutrition, the workers' comp, and the general fund. So this fiscal year, we moved those 2 funds, the workers' comp and the food service fund. We separated them from the general fund since ideally we want to be able to track those separately. We want to be able to make sure that the fund balance are restricted in a separate fund so they can't be commingled with the general fund. So the previous years they've been sort of commingled with the general fund in the financial audit. At the end of this year's or the 2017-18 audit, you will see those separate and apart from each other. But when you add up those 3 categories, you'll get to that 27 27 million number that's in the audit. So it was just me breaking those out so we could see those. And I believe that 20,567 number is on my first page of the fund balance information. And so,
I'm getting it from the highlights from last year.
oh, okay.
The audit.
From the audit, yeah. So those were combined, unfortunately, and so we had a change in accounting practice.
Is this something that the auditors recommended?
It was something that they acknowledged that that was an acceptable practice to change.
Thank you. And then just one more, yes, just one more. You had mentioned that in the, that we had a balance at the end of 2016-17 of 4.2 million, which was in workman's comp, which was last year. And the auditors in their report did mention that that was an excessive amount for a workman's comp balance. And so now you're showing for the 2018-19 estimate, of course, a balance of $3.7 million. So somewhere from August 31st then of 2016-17 to now, money has been spent. Do you know what we used it for?
Yes, ma'am. It's to pay our, our contracted service for our third-party administrator and to pay our claims. We intentionally are spending the workers' comp fund balance as per the audit, and the only way to do that is to not expense any workers' comp for the given years that it takes to get us more in line with what the actual auditor report says. And so we don't create any new expenditures on the different funds that have employee salaries going through them. But we continue to get claims every year because we're still insuring our employees for workers' comp. So for this year, and probably, as you can see, the rate we're spending, probably for at least 3 to 5 years, we'll continue to have that practice of continue to use our fund balance to pay our claims as well as our third-party administrator.
Okay. So am I right in saying that the 3.7 million is the current balance in workman's comp?
That is the expectation right now.
Okay. That's all I have then right now. So if there's no more discussion on this item, then we'll move on to the consent items. Board members, we have consent items 1 through 8, and Dr. Flores, just for future meetings, I know in the past we have annotated any discussion and possible action items with a separate heading. And I think items number 7 and 8 should have been identified as discussion and possible action, because those are not routine items. So maybe for the future, we can make sure that we have a section there for discussion and possible action. So for that reason, I'm going to be pulling 7 and 8 so that they'll be taken separately as a discussion and possible action item. So right now we have consent items 1 through 6. Board members, are there any of these items that need to be pulled for discussion?
Madam President, I'd like to pull consent item number 4.
Okay, let's go over these. Number 4. Any others, board members? No other items pulled? Okay. All right, so the only item pulled for discussion is number 4. So board members, we have, and I'm going to read them before we approve them. For approval, we have number 1, which is approval of board minutes, time management log and board tracker. A, October 3rd, 2018 special call meeting. B, October 9th, 2018 special call meeting. C, October 16th, 2018 special call meeting. D, October 18th, 2018 regular call meeting. E, November 13th, 2018 special call meeting. F, November 20th, 2018 special call meeting. G, November 26th, 2018 special call meeting. Number 2 is to approve the interlocal agreement between the City of San Antonio and South San Antonio ISD. And number 3 is to approve the purchase of instructional resources for La Mochiquila initiative to support reading development in-home, teacher creative materials, co-op, ESC Region 20, number 17030. And number 5, approval of job order contract JOC method as the procurement method for the replacement of HVAC units at Athens Elementary and establish a maximum aggregate contract price for the project. And number 6 is approval of O'Connell Robertson Engineer Firm to provide design and construction project administration for the replacement of HVAC units at Athens Elementary and establish a maximum aggregate contract price for the project. Do I hear a motion for approval for items 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6?
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Ibarra. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, for the second. Okay. A second by Ms. Peña. Board members, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? If none, motion passes. Okay, Mr. Rodriguez, I think you asked to pull item number 4, approval of the December amendment.
Yes, ma'am. I just had a question, Madam President. Thank you. Regarding the amendment that on the summary, it mentioned the 1% stipend to the employees, and I just wanted to clarify who was eligible for that, and have we, and the reason for my curiosity. One, I think it's a good thing that we're discussing the district finances. Secondly, it's Christmas time, right? Do we want to get our employees their bonus or their stipend or whatever we want to call it in time for Christmas? So so my question is, who is eligible and has that been paid out already?
So the compensation fund that was passed this year was two different things. One was a 1% increase to the salary schedule for teachers, nurses, and librarians, and that was incorporated into their overall salary for the year. So they're getting their 1% over the 24 payments of our pay cycle. The other group, everybody else who didn't fall into that category, received a one-time stipend of 1% based on their current salary. That was issued right before November 15th or right before, I don't know if the 15th was a set weekend, but it would have been somewhere around that time frame. And it was intentional. We realized a lot of people go Black Friday shopping, so we thought that time would be better than before Christmas, so that people would have an extra incentive or available to them. So it has been paid out in full, and hopefully they utilize it well.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Zamora.
Yes, sir.
Based on that response, Madam President, I'll move to approve consent item number 4.
Mr. Rodriguez, if I may, please, I'd like to further the discussion, but I will accept your motion for item number 4. Do I hear a second for item number 4?
Second.
Second by Ms. Martinez, and discussion, because I have a question as well. Okay, Mr. Zamora, I just have one question. On here, you discuss, in your descriptor, and by the way, thank you for the description that really helps to explain the issues of transfers and the increases and decreases in budget. Under 5900, it says that it has decreased due to E-rate funding decreases. What has caused us to decrease our funding?
So it's two different things. One, the easy thing to state is that E-rate itself, the USAC, which is the Universal School, and it's the Libraries and School Division, something like that, I'm sorry, can't think of the name. They have decreased funding for that program, and they will continue to decrease it, I think, one more year next year. So we have lost some funding on our telephone services. The other piece is that our services have changed. First, Mr. Lallman, that we have changed vendors and changed services to decrease some of our expenses, which also impacts our revenue stream from E-rate because it's a reimbursement-based funding. So between those two items, it's now decreased for this upcoming year by that $300,000.
So do we have any plans to try and see if we can get more funding? This was done through a grant, was it not?
It's not grant as much as an application process. Yeah, so every year we have to submit our application. We have to go out for bid for the services that we that are eligible under E-rate, which is your telephone, your Infrastructure, if it's, you get a cycle of how often you can go out for infrastructure. It's your internet, things of that nature that they reimburse us for. So every year we go up, not every year, but we go out for bid, and we get those bids in, and then, we select the vendors. Based on pricing, whether it's increase or decrease based on the services we're requesting, impacts our overall funding. But again, it's decreasing on the telephone side, over this next 2 years. So that piece will go away from E-rate. As far as seeking other grants to replace the E-rate, I do not know of any at this time, but I'm sure we'll continue to look at ways to compensate for the loss of those revenues.
Thank you, Mr. Zamora. And just one other question. There's a decrease in function 11, which is instruction.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that, I think that's a good thing. There's lobby positions that are not being filled, so we have that extra revenue. But they're being moved into other functions. Is that because, I know Dr. Flores has advised us we're hiring more teachers to help our campuses. Is that what that money is being used for? Are we hiring more staff?
So in function 11, yes, we are hiring more staff. Again, this is a snapshot as of November 30th, just looking at overall salaries and where the trend line is sending us for the end of the year. And so right now the trend is showing us that there is additional funds in function 11 that can be utilized in other areas. And so, but it does not impact our ability to hire the additional teachers that we have discussed and have already advertised for. So that is, this is up and beyond that.
Okay. All right, I just need your clarification on this. Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Zamora on this item? No? Okay, good. Thank you, Mr. Zamora, for your quarterly report and for the amendment. At this time, I have a motion by Mr. Rodriguez and a second by Ms. Martinez to approve item number 4. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 7.
Madam Chair, I have one question.
Yes.
So these, as they were listed on the agenda, are currently under consent. So just for the LSD tracker, it's like we're putting all these out for discussion right now. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay.
Pretty good. Because they should have been listed as action items instead of just under consent items. Because it actually, to my understanding, consent items are routine things that routinely get approved and submitted. Right? Anything that requires odd actions like RFQs, the item that is on there now for more discussion, I think that's something that should be under action, discussion and follow-up. So that's why I'm pulling those.
So could we have just made a change to the agenda so that, so under LSG, it wouldn't show that we're putting and discussing? Oh, what?
And so this is why we're looking forward to the retraining of LFG in early January, so I'm excited to we set the expectations. Just check.
There's some kinks, we'll get it worked out. Okay, number 7, it's approved district administration to solicit qualifications for the following selected professional services: legal counsel, financial advisor, and technology consultant to be retained for use in future district services. I'm going to refer to Dr. Flores because he and I have had a discussion on this.
Sure, and so in our discussions with Ms. Bell and myself, we went ahead and when we talked about when you have new administration coming in, a new board coming in, it is very much a common practice among school districts to go ahead and go out and look at all these kind of ancillary and support services that are provided to us as a school district. And so in the best interest of establishing a new baseline as far as how we're going to operate moving forward as a team of 8, we both came down to the same conclusion that this is just something that's in the best interest of transparency and to look at other possibilities as we always continuously strive to be as efficient, as effective as possible. So this was definitely something that we were both on the same page about. So,
any questions on this item, board members? No? I would like to, just for clarification, the process for the RFQs for the legal counsel and financial advisor, because those two entities report to the board. They representative of the board. So by the same process that we did for Dr. Flores, we were fortunate to get, where the applications are coming in, that they be sent to the board for their review for qualifications, and then at another point of a time when we meet, the board can narrow it down depending on how many applications we get, and narrow it down to the top 3, depending, or top 2, and then we can come to a conclusion altogether, decide which ones of the RFQs that were submitted is the best in the markets, and give us the best service, best quality service and a good cost. So I think the process should be the same as what we did like with the superintendent. We got to vet all of the applications, we got to meet, look at them, and then narrow them down. And that'll be for legal counsel and financial advisor. The technology consultant was something, I think the administration put on there.
It was recommended by administration team.
Okay, so administration is the one that recommended the technology consultant. And so I think if it's needed, we should do that, get RFQs to have someone there in case they're needed. And so I don't know if anybody has anything to add on this position.
Just one question, Madam President. The current legal counsel and current financial advisor and current technology services are welcome to submit requests for.
Absolutely. Everyone is welcome to submit their RFQs. Of course, Mr. O'Hanlon and his firm. Mr. Acosta was just here. Mr. Acosta, you're also welcome to submit your RFQ proposal as well. So the more proposals we get, the better. Competition is always healthy. Yes, Mr. Ibarra.
So on that, we had special call meetings when we were looking for superintendent. What are we doing for this process?
Dr. Cordes, you have suggestions on the timeline?
Typically, Mr. Zamora, how do we do for the RFQs? What's the typical standard operating procedure?
So for RFQs, we'll go through the same bid process as we do with anything. We'll go ahead and post for 2 consecutive weeks. We'll probably give probably 3 weeks to 4 weeks time to respond. In there, we build in time for questions from the vendors if they have any, so we can respond to their questions so they can put in a most thorough package. Between the 2 weeks and the 3 to 4 weeks time frame of allowing for submission, you're looking at 5 to 6 weeks time frame before we can evaluate and then bring to the board hopefully.
But as far as actually a face-to-face interview or some kind of, or even a online interview or something like that?
We'll build that into that 3 to 4 week period response time.
Okay.
Any other questions on this item? Okay. No? If there are none, do I hear a motion for item number 7?
Madam President, I motion to pass item number 7.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Rodriguez. Do I hear a second? Second. Second by Ms. Flores. Second by Ms. Flores. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, the last item on the agenda is discussion and possible action to ascertain and declare the position of the Board of Trustees regarding charter school partnerships, privatization of schools, and corporate grants intended for privately managed schools and related matters thereof. I'm going to speak to that because I had requested this item we put on the agenda. A lot of us have all heard, and some of us have heard as we go to throughout the community and from your constituencies and attending functions, just like most of us have done. The concern that we're hearing from the community, and not just the community, but from staff members as well, is that IDEA is getting bigger and bigger. They're building more buildings, they're going to start adding more grades. Are we going to lose more kids? Therefore, is that going to impact our job and our district? So the concern is real. IDEA is very aggressive in their recruitment. We've seen it for ourselves. Those of us that were able to go to the Blue Santa Parade, you missed a good one. They were there. They were there with a tent, a beautiful blue and white tent that say IDEA Public Schools. And they were signing up parents that were there with their little ones, getting them to sign applications. But then they also were doing flyers, and I shared it with Dr. Flores, and the flyer was, come and join us to register your family and friends. And they're giving it to their current parents and telling them, if you bring me 5 applications, you will get dinner for 4 at a restaurant of your choosing. If you bring me 20 applications, you will get Spurs tickets. If you give me more than that, you will get, there's a 55-inch TV. They are aggressive, and we cannot just stand by and let them continue to take our kids away from us. So we've heard speakers, pro and con, on charter schools, but I can tell you that from what I've been hearing and the calls that I'm getting, is there's a sense of concern what's going to happen to our district. They don't want partnerships, they don't want charter schools in our district, and I feel that the discussion needs to be held among us, the board, to get a sense and maybe a position on where we are when it comes to charter schools. And we've heard a lot of citizens come to speak to that, and that's because of that, I'd like to open it for discussion. Anybody have any comments on this item? Any discussion?
Yes. I'll go first.
Okay.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of discussion, but I think this agenda item addresses kind of like our theory of action. It's I think it's a requirement of the Lone Star governance that the board engage with the family and the community members, right, when we develop or modify any of our Lone Star, our theories of action or constraints, right? And I think with the new board members that we got on board, and we haven't even gone to Lone Star governance training, some of that stuff I think needs to be put off. We've held community meetings through the strategic design planning that identified the current theory of action and the constraints that we have right now. I think it's disrespectful to the stakeholders that actually took part in all those strategic design meetings to make new decisions without going back to them and taking their input, right? I think Lone Star governance requires that we use research findings and make evidence-based decisions when formulating our vision for the district. So I think as an exemplary district for Lone Star governance, we have an obligation to uphold those principles. And more importantly, we owe our community the opportunity for the input on important decisions that affect the nature of the district and the future of the district. So I just feel that it's probably not a responsible time to vote on an item that, one, these new board members have not even attended a Lone Star governance training session, and we have not held a team of 8 discussion with the new board members to kind of find out any position. So that's just kind of where I stand on this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez.
Madam Chair, I appreciate what your rationale is on this, and I do agree. I've said it from the very beginning when we were losing enrollment, that the charter schools are real, and we'll be losing kids in droves, and it's happening. So I'm saying this, and this is my opinion, that I feel that for this particular item, our new board members have not yet had the chance to attend the Lone Star governance training, and therefore should not be put in the position of voting on a matter that is so integral to the Lone Star governance system. We can revisit this question a bit later after everyone is grounded in the best practices that are reflected in Lone Star governance. And finally, I believe that all of us here are in agreement that we do not want charter schools. However, let's not limit ourselves to partner with corporations like H-E-B, Toyota, Boeing, or institutes of higher learning such as Palo Alto College, San Antonio, Texas A&M, Our Lady of the Lake. And to make an educational decision, we need more time to study this, and we have to have longer conversations. Therefore, for these reasons, I'd like to make a motion that we table this item until we have had the opportunity for a substantive discussion that involves the community. So I make that motion to table.
We have a motion by Ms. Flores,
I'll second.
and I have a second by Mr. Ibarra. Discussion, further discussion? No, Mr. Flores.
I appreciate you pointing out that I'm not trained in Lone Star governance. But in this discussion, I will say that it doesn't take training to vote for some of the items that we just voted for. So I don't appreciate some of those comments. But what I will say is that South San is not for sale. I don't believe that we should allow any kind of partnership with charter schools or outside entities. If they want to give us money, well then have it like someone said at the pulpit, with no strings attached. I think we have the staff, and I believe in Dr. Flores, to give us a good plan, to definitely allow community input, because it was the community who voted me in this seat, and a number of them said they want to see Kaizen open. And I believe when we do that, we're not going to allow any kind of outside entities or partnerships with South San. I believe in our brand, because I came to school here, my kids came to school here, and generations above my mom and grandmother came here. So I believe the community has empowered us to make a decision like this and say no to charter schools and outside entities. And I wish to embrace Lone Star governance because I'm going to attend the training, and I'm going to definitely give it the opportunity, because at the end it's about the outcome for students and our goals. But again, I will say, I think it's disrespectful to say that I'm not trained to make a vote, and when I have already in 2 board meetings.
Any other comments?
Madam Chairman, I do.
Mr. Rodriguez.
I'm definitely excited about attending the LSU. Let me tell you, I've let Dr. Flores know that it should be like a 7-day thing, because I have tons of questions and curiosities relative to LSG. But to echo Mr. Flores, we certainly didn't require LSG training to approve some of the items that have been presented for us, expenditure items. And I certainly feel that the community deems me qualified, being that I'm sitting in this chair here, to present them with a vision, to voice their vision and voice their opinion, because they voted for me. And fortunately for me, I'm very open, I'm very honest, and I'm very upfront. So I think that the community that voted for me would agree that I'm eminently qualified to voice my position on this particular item. Having said that, we'll welcome anybody's money. Absolutely. We'll take money from Toyota and HEB to implement programs and enhance the education for our students. Absolutely. We'll take it all day and every day. We won't take it to privatize. We won't take it to take our administration away to work for someone else. We have an obligation, all of us here, as elected by our community members, to educate all the children in our district, not just selected ones, not 10 of them that can fill out an application and get a free TV, you know. So I feel that I'm adamantly opposed to charter schools. I'm opposed to privatization. I am excited about forming partnerships with institutions of higher learning, such as UTSA, Texas A&M, anyone other than, they're all welcome. They want to form a partnership with us and develop programs for our students, all of the students in our district and our communities. Absolutely. Let's sit down and have those discussions. And I believe we have a roadmap for a workshop. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked out schedule-wise to this point, but we do have it on the horizon. So the things that have been addressed are definitely going to happen. And I don't mean any disrespect, and I'm just passionate about promoting our brand, to protecting our district. I'm a very loyal person, extremely loyal. And I'm going to be loyal to the community and to the students and to the administration of our district. And that is my responsibility. That's what I was elected to do, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'll look forward to the other board, the other trustees to making comments. And the LSG training will show me how to, can I make another motion to Ms. What is this motion? Is there an alternate motion or sub-motion?
Yes, I think if it's all right, Mr. Rodriguez, we have a main motion on the floor, and the process is that you can make a substitute motion if you'd like at this time, or if you would like to wait until we afford the other board members to give their comments.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. Madam
Okay.
President, I'd like to afford the board members.
We will come back to you, and then you can make a substitute motion.
Thank you.
Any comments or words of wisdom?
I just want to say that I am also opposed to charter schools. I know we are risking losing, we can be risking losing partnerships. But if we fight hard enough to bring our enrollment up, we believe that we'll get people to give to us. So I support my community, that's what they want. I will have to side with them after hearing everybody speak today as well.
Thank you.
I also am against charter school. I feel that we are to educate all our students, not just selective. Yeah, I'm just very passionate to my district. I've had family before me, and I want to have this district grow. That is my dream in being on the school board, is making this district grow.
Thank you, Ms. Peña. I too, if I may, Ms. Flores, please, and Mr. Ibarra, I too need to say a few words, but I'm one member of the board. But I too am passionate about South San, and we've had some struggles. But South San is on the right trajectory. We are going up. And we're going up because everyone is working as a team to make this district succeed. But we have to make change. The changes that were made this past year did not benefit this district at all. It hurt our district. The school closures, all they did was handed over our kids to IDEA. And that has to stop, because they're not going to stop. They're going to continue to try and be aggressive. IDEA is known for trying to buy districts' buildings out to place their schools in there. And it's like I heard a while ago, South San's not for sale. Our buildings were built with taxpayers' dollars. And those parents voted for those buildings for their kids to house them, not to have selected children from all around come in a charter school environment. So I in no way will I ever support a charter school, much less privatization money. I'm not for sale, South San is not for sale, and these buildings belong to us. And that's all I have to say. Say something else.
Well, only because the comments that I made were not in reference to anybody being not qualified to be on this board. That was never the intention of that comment. The comment was the process that we use to go about things, right? And we're a mentor district for LSG. What I was referring to is a process that's already in place, that's been in place to take care of these kind of situations, these kind of decisions that we're making. It was never to comment on anybody's qualifications to be here or not be here. I too have graduated from South San. I attended Cleveland, and my kids are all part of this district as well. And they're still attending the district. And I have very many family members down the line of my generations that attended South San. So in no way or form or fashion am I saying that South San's for sale or that I support charter schools or anything like that as well. I'm referring to the practice of the process that we use to make decisions like the one that's in front of us right now. That's what I'm referring to with the comments that I was making.
Thank you, Mr. Ibarra. Ms. Flores?
As well as me, I was referring to the fact that the new board members haven't had this training is because I was referring to our vision. One of our pillars under Lone Star Governance is the Vision 3, okay? And that has to do with the board has adopted a vision for what student outcomes will be and has adopted constraints aligned with that vision. The master focus on that has to do with exactly with what we're discussing right now. Okay, and it has to involve the community. That's why I made the motion to that we take this item, that we table this item until we have had the opportunity for more discussions that would involve the community as to where we're at. I think that like I stated at the beginning, I don't feel that all of us agree we don't want charter schools. The charter schools are a problem to our district. I'm passionate about this district as well. I didn't put 38 years in this district as an employee for nothing. I've lived in this district as well, and my children have attended these schools. So I'm passionate about South San. The problem is, it's not a problem really, it is that we need to follow the Lone Star governance model that we have said that we're going to follow. And that's all that I'm referring to, because everything that I've mentioned here has to do with what we'll be trained on next month, which, Mr. Rodriguez, I'm glad you're excited about it, because this will be my 4th time that I'm attending this training. So I can't get enough of it, okay? So because of the fact that it allows us to govern in the way that we should govern, like Mr. Ibarra has put it, to take the process the way it's supposed to function in what we're doing now in discussing and taking this item to where it needs further discussion before we can make any decisions.
Any other comments? Yes, Mr. Rodriguez.
Oh, yeah, no, I as well as anyone, Dr. Flores can attest to this, and a stickler for processes and following procedures. As I read the item, we are, and I see that everybody is opposed to, or not in favor of charter schools. We're merely forming a position, right? We're stating our position as the Board of Trustees for our communities. Now the process for adopting that into our vision, to me, seems like a different process. We can adopt we can state our position and then go through the process to adopting that as our vision, if that makes sense to anyone. That's how I understand it. We're not changing our vision. We're not circumventing LSG. We're merely here as a team of 8 or 7 that are going to vote, letting our community know that here, collectively and together, we're opposed to charter schools and privatization. And the process that we go about implementing that via LSG is something, it's a different step. So, having said that, Madam President, I would like to make a substitute motion.
Yes, Mr. Rodriguez.
And I've given this a lot of thought. So, in order for the Board of Trustees to express our position on agenda item number 8, I would like to make the following motion. I move that the Board of Trustees declare their opposition to charter school partnerships, privatization of schools, corporate grants intended for privately managed schools. On the other hand, the Board of Trustees promotes a traditional public school system, encourages partnerships with institutions of higher learning, and supports corporate grants without privatization mandates. Further, we must ensure that local control is maintained to sustain our school district identity, to protect our employees, and to comply with our state constitutional obligation to educate all students.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. I have a motion by Mr. Rodriguez. Do I hear a second?
I second.
I have a second by Mr. Flores. All in favor?
Aye.
If you in favor, raise your hands, please. All those opposed? Show by raising hands. Any abstentions? 2 abstentions. Thank you. Motion passes. At this time, then, I will take a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion by Mr. Ibarra. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Flores. The meeting is adjourned, and the time is 8:58.